Good afternoon. My name is Walter Wilson. I'm a practicing attorney. I've been practicing law for over 50 years. And my practice is focused on doctors throughout the United States. When you look at over 2,000 tax returns with your group of lawyers a year, you see certain trends. And these trends are frankly alarming. So we started looking internally. In other words, when you go to a professional meeting or you look at study groups around the United States, when you ask, well, what are you earning? Because I'm seeing revenues decreasing. And they tell you, and they look at you and they say, we don't know why our revenues are decreasing. I say, well, maybe we should look at another place. When was the last time you saw your lawyer or your CPA call you up and say, we need to talk about these decreasing revenues? It's never happened. So we started looking internally, saying, can we find profit centers that are invisible in plain sight that have never been offered to you in any of your communications? In other words, if you didn't have to see one additional patient, you didn't have to cut your overhead, and you didn't have to do one additional procedure, and we could enhance your revenues, would you be open to the possibility? That's what we're going to talk about today. I'm going to identify 4 profit centers that have been absolutely ignored by your advisors. And they are there every year. Imagine that your practice has been groomed by you faithfully for decades. And you have within it, imagine it's a gold mine. And there are nuggets in that mine that no one's shown you how to identify. No one's shown you how to exploit or to change them into revenues. And they renew every year. So let's assume that you've got 10 more years to practice, and let's assume that we're going to take a journey today, and we're going to identify 4 profit centers of 20. This is 4 of 20. And today you're going to take those 4 and compare them to your world, as you are and where you could be. The first profit center we like to define as pay tax on what you consume, not on what you earn. Today, I would say virtually every one of you who is practicing in a corporate form are taking your revenues out partially as wages and partially as S-Corp distributions because you're a Subchapter S corporation. They're a terribly inefficient way to reduce federal income tax and pay for goods and services. But if you were to combine them with a concept that we call the Management Services Organization, the MSO, and if this MSO was taxed in a certain way, which was put on steroids on January 1st of 2018, you could get the best of both worlds. You could have income taxed based upon what you consume rather than you earn, and we could move everything else over to the Management Services Organization. But here's the magic that occurs. 1, we can reduce federal income taxes by 50% or more a year. So let's say you have 10 more years to practice, and let's say we can reduce your federal and state income tax combined to $100,000 a year. Multiply that times 10 years, we just found $1 million. If you were to have 5% compounded by your broker each year, you'd probably have $1.5 million in that account at the end of 10 years. You can pay for goods and services that you're currently paying for with after-tax dollars at a 42% discount by merely having those same goods and services paid by that MSO. 42%. So if you, on an average, pay for life insurance, health insurance, disability insurance, property and casualty insurance, long-term care insurance, and healthcare expenses because you didn't have enough healthcare expenses to exceed 7.5% of your adjusted gross income each year, you're probably paying between $75,000 and $100,000 a year. Let's just say $100,000 a year. 40% of that is $40,000 a year that MSO could save you. Multiply that times 10. Add 5% a year. We've just now found another $750,000 that wasn't there before. Now we're up to $1,750,000. But what's even bigger is that on January 1 of 2018, MSOs were put on steroids because they were given a flat 21% tax rate. Well, let's say you had $1 million worth of debt or business-related debt or more. If that MSO pays that debt because principal is not deductible, you could reduce eliminate 42% of what it costs you to generate the money to pay the IRS and pay that principal on that debt. $420,000 per million. You do the math. The average out there for you is at least $1.5 million of business-related debt. That's almost $700,000. Invest that 5% a year. We're up to $1.5 million. I have just found you with just 3 recommendations, almost $3 million. That's perfectly legal. The fourth thing is you're investing improperly. I don't care what you put your money in. I could care less if you got a broker. What I do care about is there's a more opportune way to invest, and that's through that MSO. It has 30% more money each year to pay for investments. And the beauty of the 2018 Tax Act, it eliminated the double tax associated with C Corps. It's gone. So now you're only taxed once. Now I've just given you 4 of 20 tax saving opportunities. That's 4 of 20. Imagine if you were to call me up and say, I want to find out the other 16. You would be astounded as to the ability to find the invisible in plain sight. Isn't it about time you give me a call?